My beloved child, this message is reaching you with an urgency that cannot be ignored. Don't skip. Listen carefully. Stay till the end because what you are about to hear carries an energy unlike anything that has come before. Somewhere, someone has reached an emotional breaking point. Someone who has been holding back words, feelings, and truths for far too long. The title may have caught your attention, but the emotions behind it are even more powerful. Your soulmate is carrying something in their heart that has become too heavy to keep hidden, and now they feel as though they can no longer continue the way they have been. For a long time, they convinced themselves they could stay silent. They told themselves that patience would make things easier. They believed that if they waited long enough, the feelings would fade or the situation would somehow resolve itself. But instead of disappearing, the emotions only grew stronger. Every day became more difficult. Every unanswered question became heavier. Every moment of uncertainty created another layer of frustration. What happened next changed everything because they finally realized they were exhausted from pretending they were okay. Late at night, when the world around them becomes quiet, their thoughts become impossible to escape. They replay memories over and over. They wonder whether they waited too long. They question whether they missed opportunities they should have taken. There are moments when they stare into the darkness, wishing they could somehow make you understand everything they have never been able to say. Listen carefully. This is not coming from anger. It is coming from emotional exhaustion. My beloved child, your soulmate has been fighting a battle inside themselves. One side of them wants to keep holding on. One side wants to continue believing that everything will eventually work out. But another side is tired of carrying uncertainty. Tired of feeling unheard. Tired of waiting for signs that never seem clear enough. This changes everything because they are approaching a moment where a decision must be made. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. Recently, they found themselves imagining what life would look like if they simply stopped trying. Not because they wanted to stop caring, but because they wondered how much longer their heart could carry the weight of unanswered emotions. The thought frightened them. It shook them deeply. Because even in imagining letting go, they discovered something important. The feelings never truly disappeared. The connection remained. There was a moment when they almost convinced themselves to walk away emotionally. They told themselves it would be easier. They told themselves it would protect them from disappointment. But the instant they considered giving up, something inside them resisted. A voice deep within kept reminding them that some connections are not easily forgotten. Some people leave a mark that remains long after distance, silence, or confusion enters the picture. My beloved child, this is where the urgency comes from. Your soulmate is tired of hiding behind fear. They are tired of acting as though everything is fine when their heart is carrying so much. They want clarity. They want truth. They want a reason to keep believing. More than anything, they want to know whether the connection they feel has meaning beyond their own imagination. What happened next changed everything. Instead of continuing to suppress their emotions, they finally allowed themselves to acknowledge the depth of what they feel. The realization was overwhelming. They understood that the reason they were struggling so much was because the connection mattered more than they had ever admitted. The pain was not coming from weakness. It was coming from caring deeply. My beloved child, if this message feels intense, it is because the emotions surrounding it are intense. Your soulmate is standing at a crossroads between fear and faith. They do not want to give up. They do not want to walk away from something that feels important. But they also know they cannot continue carrying everything alone forever. The silence that once felt manageable now feels unbearable. And here is the twist that changes the entire story. Just when they feel closest to surrendering their hope, something unexpected begins to happen. A new understanding starts forming. New signs begin appearing. New circumstances begin shifting around them. The very situation they believed was stuck starts showing movement. The door they thought was permanently closed begins opening ever so slightly. My beloved child, your soulmate's cry of, "Please open this before I give up. I can't do this anymore," is not the ending of the story. It is the moment before the breakthrough. It is the moment before honesty replaces confusion. It is the moment before truths hidden in silence finally come into the light. Their heart is reaching for answers, reaching for clarity, and reaching for the courage to take the next step. Because very soon, they will realize that giving up is not what their soul truly wants. What their soul wants is resolution. What their soul wants is honesty. What their soul wants is a chance to finally express everything they have been carrying. And when they reach that realization, the words they choose next will have the power to change everything. But what they are preparing to reveal is something even they never expected. My beloved child, what they are preparing to reveal is something that has been locked inside their heart for far too long. After reaching that emotional breaking point, your soulmate could no longer pretend that everything was normal. The feelings they tried to ignore kept returning stronger than before. The memories became clearer. The emotions became deeper. And the silence that once protected them began feeling more painful than the truth itself. Listen carefully, because this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. For days, and perhaps even weeks, they wrestled with the same question. Should they continue holding everything inside, or should they finally speak from the heart? Every time they tried to convince themselves to move on, something pulled them back. Every time they tried to create distance, their thoughts found a way back to the connection. What happened next changed everything because they finally stopped fighting what they felt and started listening to it. Late one night, while reflecting on everything that had happened, your soulmate came to a realization that left them speechless. They understood that the reason they were hurting so deeply was not because the connection was weak, it was because it mattered. Truly mattered. If it had been meaningless, they would have forgotten long ago. If it had been temporary, their heart would have moved on. But instead, the feelings remained, refusing to disappear no matter how much time passed. My beloved child, there are moments when they feel as though they are standing between two worlds. One world is familiar, safe, and predictable. The other requires vulnerability, honesty, and courage. For so long, they remained in the first world because it felt easier. But now, their soul is calling them toward the second. This changes everything because growth always begins when fear loses its control. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. Recently, your soulmate noticed that certain signs kept appearing around them. Conversations about second chances. Stories about people reconnecting after periods of silence. Unexpected reminders that seemed impossible to ignore. At first, they dismissed these moments as coincidences. But eventually, there were too many of them to overlook. It felt as though life itself was trying to get their attention. The most powerful moment came when they imagined what would happen if they never spoke their truth. The thought left them with a feeling of regret so strong that it shook them to their core. They realized that while rejection might hurt, living forever with unanswered questions would hurt even more. That realization became a turning point. It gave them a kind of courage they had not felt before. My beloved child, your soulmate is beginning to understand that love was never meant to live in silence forever. Feelings this strong eventually demand expression. Truth eventually demands a voice. The walls they built around their heart are cracking, and every day those walls become weaker. The fear that once seemed overwhelming is slowly being replaced by determination. What happened next changed everything. Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, they started focusing on what could go right. Instead of imagining loss, they began imagining possibility. Instead of preparing themselves to give up, they started preparing themselves to take action. The shift may seem small from the outside, but inside their heart it feels enormous. My beloved child, the message, please open this before I give up. I can't do this anymore, was never really about surrender. It was a cry from a heart that desperately wanted to be understood. A heart that was tired of carrying everything alone. A heart that was searching for one final reason to keep believing. And now, that reason is beginning to appear. The darkness that surrounded them is not as strong as it once was. The confusion is beginning to clear. The answers they have been searching for are moving closer. They may not have all the details yet, but they are no longer standing still. They are moving forward, step by step, toward the truth they can no longer avoid. And very soon, my beloved child, your soulmate will make a decision that surprises even them. A decision that transforms waiting into action. A decision that replaces silence with honesty. A decision that could bring long-hidden emotions into the light at last. Because the words they are preparing to say next are not words of defeat, they are words of courage. And when those words are finally spoken, nothing will ever be the same again. My beloved child, the words they are preparing to say are growing louder inside their heart every single day. What once felt impossible to express is now becoming impossible to contain. The emotions they have carried for so long are reaching a point where silence can no longer hold them back. Listen carefully. Your soulmate is standing on the edge of a breakthrough, and they can feel it even if they do not fully understand what is happening. Since their moment of realization, something has changed in the way they see the connection. They are no longer viewing it through the lens of fear. Instead, they are beginning to see it through the lens of truth. Every memory now feels more meaningful. Every sign feels more significant. Every feeling they once questioned now feels impossible to deny. What happened next changed everything because they stopped asking whether the connection was real and started accepting that it already was. There are moments when your soulmate finds themselves imagining conversations that have never happened. They replay possible outcomes in their mind. They wonder what they would say if they finally had the chance to speak openly. Some nights they stay awake longer than they should, thinking about all the things left unsaid. The words are there. The feelings are there. The only thing missing is the courage to let them escape. My beloved child, this inner struggle has become more intense than ever before. Part of them still fears disappointment. Part of them worries that revealing their heart could change everything. But another part has grown tired of living behind emotional walls. That part is becoming stronger every day. It keeps reminding them that life is too short to spend forever wondering what might have been. This changes everything because courage is beginning to outweigh fear. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. Recently, your soulmate experienced a moment that shook them deeply. It may have been a dream, a memory, a conversation, or simply a sudden realization during a quiet moment. Whatever it was, it forced them to confront a truth they had been avoiding. They realized that no matter how hard they tried to move forward without answers, their heart kept leading them back to the same place. Back to the same connection. Back to the same feelings. For the first time, they allowed themselves to imagine a future where they stopped hiding. A future where they spoke honestly. A future where they took the risk they had been avoiding. And instead of feeling fear, they felt relief. Relief at the thought of finally being authentic. Relief at the thought of no longer carrying everything alone. Relief at the possibility of freedom from the emotional burden they have been carrying. My beloved child, the signs around them are becoming impossible to ignore. The lessons they needed to learn have been learned. The healing they needed to experience is taking place. The barriers that once stood in their way are beginning to crumble. Everything that once seemed frozen is starting to move. Slowly at first, but unmistakably. What happened next changed everything. Your soulmate made a promise to themselves. A quiet promise that no one else knows about. They promised that they would stop running from the truth. They promised that they would stop allowing fear to make decisions for them. They promised that if the opportunity appeared, they would finally speak from the heart, no matter how vulnerable it made them feel. My beloved child, this promise has awakened something powerful within them. Their energy is different now. Their perspective is different now. They are no longer preparing themselves to give up. They are preparing themselves to take a chance. The very message that sounded like defeat is transforming into determination. The very pain that nearly broke them is becoming the reason they find their courage. And now they are closer than ever to a moment that will define the next chapter of their story. A moment where silence ends and honesty begins. A moment where fear steps aside and truth takes its place. A moment where the feelings they have carried for so long finally find a voice. Because very soon, my beloved child, your soulmate will realize that the answer they have been searching for was never found in giving up. It was found in speaking their truth. And when they finally decide to do that, the emotional walls that separated possibility from reality will begin to disappear. But the truth they are about to reveal is far more powerful than anyone expects, and it will leave a lasting impact on everyone involved. My beloved child, the truth they are about to reveal has been growing inside them for longer than they care to admit. Every experience, every sleepless night, every unanswered question has been leading to this moment. What once felt like confusion is beginning to transform into clarity. What once felt like emotional exhaustion is becoming determination. Listen carefully, because your soulmate is closer than ever to a decision that will change the direction of their life. For so long, they believed they had to carry everything alone. They convinced themselves that hiding their emotions was the safest option. They thought silence would protect them from disappointment. But over time, they discovered that silence has its own kind of pain. It creates distance where there could be understanding. It creates uncertainty where there could be truth. What happened next changed everything because they finally realized they were more afraid of never knowing than they were of hearing the answer. There is a powerful shift taking place within them right now. They are beginning to see their situation from a completely different perspective. Instead of focusing on what could be lost, they are focusing on what could be gained. Instead of imagining failure, they are allowing themselves to imagine hope. This changes everything because hope is a force that fear can never fully control. My beloved child, your soulmate has spent countless hours reflecting on the journey that brought them here. They have looked back on moments they once dismissed. They have remembered conversations they thought were insignificant. They have connected dots that previously seemed unrelated. And the more they reflect, the more convinced they become that this connection entered their life for a reason. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. Recently, they found themselves thinking about a future they once considered impossible. Not a fantasy. Not a dream. A real future. A future where honesty replaces uncertainty. A future where feelings are expressed instead of hidden. A future where they no longer have to wonder what might happen because they finally choose to find out. There was a moment when they almost talked themselves out of taking action. Old fears resurfaced. Old doubts tried to regain control. But this time was different. This time, the voice inside their heart was stronger than the voice inside their mind. That quiet inner voice kept repeating the same message: you cannot keep living this way forever. And for the first time, they listened. My beloved child, the person who once felt like giving up is beginning to disappear. In their place stands someone who is finding courage they never knew they possessed. Someone who is realizing that vulnerability is not weakness. Someone who is understanding that the greatest regrets often come from the chances we never take. This realization has given them a new sense of purpose. What happened next changed everything. They stopped waiting for perfect conditions. They stopped searching for guaranteed outcomes. They stopped demanding certainty before taking a step forward. Instead, they made a choice. A choice to trust their heart. A choice to honor their feelings. A choice to move toward the truth rather than away from it. Now, my beloved child, they stand at the threshold of a new chapter. The emotional storm that once overwhelmed them is beginning to settle. The confusion that once clouded their vision is beginning to clear. The words they have been holding back are closer than ever to being spoken. And with each passing day, their resolve becomes stronger. Because very soon, they will understand that this journey was never about giving up. It was about finding the courage to keep going when everything inside them wanted to quit. It was about learning that real feelings do not disappear simply because they are ignored. And it was about discovering that sometimes the greatest breakthroughs happen at the exact moment we think we have reached our limit. The story is approaching its most important moment. The truth is almost ready to be revealed. The silence is almost over. And when your soulmate finally takes that step, they will realize that the message they once cried out in desperation was actually the beginning of their transformation. But what happens after they finally speak from the heart is the part that changes everything forever. My beloved child, now the story reaches its final chapter, and it is far more beautiful than the fear and uncertainty that came before it. If you have stayed until this moment, then these words are meant for you. Throughout this journey, your soulmate felt exhausted, confused, and ready to give up. They carried emotions they did not know how to express and questions they did not know how to answer. But what they eventually discovered changed everything. The answer was never found in surrendering, it was found in choosing courage. After all the sleepless nights, the overthinking, and the emotional battles within their heart, your soulmate finally made a decision. They decided they would no longer allow fear to control their future. They stopped waiting for perfect timing. They stopped searching for guarantees. Instead, they chose honesty. They chose truth. They chose to trust what their heart had been trying to tell them all along. What happened next changed everything. The moment they stopped running from their feelings, a sense of peace began replacing the anxiety they had carried for so long. The burden that once felt impossible to bear suddenly became lighter. The confusion that once clouded their mind started to disappear. For the first time in a very long time, they felt aligned with themselves. They felt free. My beloved child, the message, "Please open this before I give up. I can't do this anymore," was never meant to be the ending. It was the turning point. It was the moment when pain transformed into clarity. It was the moment when a tired heart finally realized that giving up was not the answer. Speaking honestly was. Choosing hope was. Believing in the possibility of something beautiful was. Stay till the end because this changes everything. As your soulmate embraced their truth, doors that once seemed closed began opening. Conversations became easier. The future became clearer. The fears that once looked enormous suddenly seemed much smaller. They discovered that the courage they had been searching for was inside them all along. They simply needed to trust it. The most beautiful part is that they no longer carry the weight alone. The feelings that once lived in silence have found their voice. The emotions that once created distance have created understanding instead. And the uncertainty that once kept them awake at night has been replaced by a quiet confidence that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. My beloved child, every challenge they faced had a purpose. Every delay taught them patience. Every disappointment taught them wisdom. Every moment of doubt taught them the value of faith. Looking back, they realized that even the hardest parts of the journey were preparing them for the happiness that was waiting ahead. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was meaningless. As time moved forward, they stopped focusing on what could go wrong and started appreciating what was going right. They allowed themselves to enjoy the present instead of fearing the future. They learned that love grows strongest when it is nurtured by honesty, trust, and mutual understanding. And because of that realization, the connection they once feared losing became stronger than ever before. So, my beloved child, let this be the final message you carry with you. not every story that reaches a breaking point ends in loss. Sometimes the breaking point is where healing begins. Sometimes the moment you think everything is falling apart is actually the moment everything starts coming together. Your soulmate's cry for help became a cry for transformation, and that transformation led them toward peace, confidence, and hope. And in the end, they did not give up. They did not walk away from what mattered most. They found the courage to keep believing. They found the strength to keep moving forward. Most importantly, they discovered that the love they were searching for was worth fighting for all along. My beloved child, walk away from this message knowing that every storm eventually passes, every question eventually finds its answer, and every heart that chooses hope eventually finds its light. The story ends not with regret, but with gratitude. Not with fear, but with faith. Not with goodbye, but with a beautiful new beginning. And that is exactly how it was always meant to be.